Welcome to your Nichols football home opener preview. The Colonels started off their first 4 games of the season on the road, but they return home this Saturday to face the Central Arkansas Bears. But before we get into the home opener, let's see how they've done so far this season. The Colonels entered the 2019 football season with a ton of confidence. They entered the season ranked number 12 in the Stats FCS poll and had come off their first playoff victory in 32 seasons. And last year in 2018, they had knocked off Kansas 26-23 to open up the year. But against Kansas State, you could say it was a different script. The Colonels lost to Kansas State 49-14. They allowed 573 total yards, including 361 on the ground. They trailed 28-0 at halftime and allowed 33 first downs. So they really needed that Week 2 bye. Nichols planned to bounce back after its Week 2 bye with a Week 3 matchup at Prairie View A&M. The Colonels got the win 42-35 behind a pair of touchdown catches from junior wide receiver Dejon Dixon, and senior linebacker Alan Pittman got a sack on the last play of the game to secure the win. Despite trailing 21-6 at halftime, the Colonels outscored Prairie View A&M 29-0 in the third quarter to improve to 1-1 on the season. The next game for Nichols was their first Southland Conference opponent of the season, Stephen F. Austin. The Colonels came out with a 48-30 victory behind sophomore running back Julian Gums. He rushed for 135 yards and 3 touchdowns. This time the team led 28-23 at halftime, and even senior quarterback Chase Forcade rushed twice on the ground. But the biggest score of the night may have been from junior running back Jeremy Rounds. After 2 season-ending knee injuries in 2017 and 2018, he scored his first touchdown since the 2017 win over Prairie View A&M. However, after this game, the Colonels fell back to the 500 mark. In their game against Texas State, the Colonels were tied 3-3 at halftime, but ended up losing 24-3 in the process. It was the first time the Colonels were kept out of the end zone since the 2015 season. They outgained the Colonels 362 to 220 yards in total offense, bringing their record to 2-2 on the season. In its long-awaited home opener, Nichols dominated Central Arkansas 34-14. The Colonels led 20-0 at halftime and never relinquished it. Junior quarterback Chase Forcade became only the 7th player in Southland Conference history to eclipse 10,000 yards of total offense in his college career. Junior wide receiver Dejon Dixon burned the Bears' defense with 5 grabs and 140 yards in the first half before leaving with an apparent shoulder injury. The defense put up 4 sacks, and junior defensive back Darren Evans forced an interception to help Nichols improve to 3-2 on the year and 2-0 in the Southland Conference. The next matchup for the Colonels was against its rival, the Northwestern State Demons, in the battle for the NSU Trophy. The Colonels won 45-35. They held a 31-7 lead in the third quarter, but were outscored 28-14 the rest of the way. Offensively, senior running back Kendall Bussey rushed for 102 yards, and Forcade added 135 on his own to post the most rushing yards in a game so far in his career. However, the defense struggled and allowed 337 passing yards against the Demons. After this game, Nichols improved to 4-2 and 3-0 in the Southland Conference as they headed back to Texas. In Texas, Nichols took on Sam Houston and fell 17-0, being shut out for the first time since the 2015 season. The Bearcats held the Colonels to 55 rushing yards and earned 3 sacks and an interception on the afternoon. This defeat knocked the Colonels down in the national polls and dropped their record to 4-3 overall and 3-1 in the Southland Conference. For the third time in 4 games, the Colonels will be playing at Manning Field and take on the Abilene Christian Wildcats. The Wildcats are coming off a 31-24 overtime victory over the Stephen F. Austin Lumberjacks, and the Wildcats have a powerful weapon in running back Tracy James. The senior running back has rushed for 676 yards and 12 touchdowns so far this season. James has also added 220 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns, so look for the Colonels to enter the game looking to limit James and force the Wildcats to go to the air. This game kicks off Saturday at 3 p.m. and will be on Cox Sports Television and ESPN+. Now let's kick it back to the studio for more analysis on the game, brought to you by KNSU TV. My name's Daniel Benitez.
I'm Brandon Thomas, Leroy Triggs.
And I am Shannon Royal.
And welcome to your Colonel Football Preview, Homecoming Edition. We got the Abilene Christian Wildcats coming to town this Saturday at 3 p.m., but the Colonels are coming off a 17-0 loss at Sam Houston. Real unfortunate.
Really unfortunate, but, sad to say, it happened 3 other times. Overall, the Colonels' record is 4-3. In the Southland Conference, they're 3-1. They started off their season against Kansas State. It was a big game for Kansas State. They're coming in with a new coach, offensive system changer for the first time in like 20 years. Gets a chance to get a real feel of what's going down in Manhattan, Kansas. But Kansas, they started and they never stopped. It was 21-0 at halftime. The Colonels were struggling to get up. It was a big game for them too, coming off of back-to-back Southland Conference championships and then having a playoff appearance for the second time in a row also. For Cade, he had 126 passing yards in the game. Gums, he ran for 75 yards, and Dejon Dixon finished with 92 yards receiving. Second game against Prairie View A&M. It was a good win for the Colonels, 42-35. Prairie View was up 21-6 at halftime, but the Colonels showed resilience in being able to come back late in the game, in the later half of the game. In the third and fourth quarter, it was all Colonels. Bussey led the team with 89 yards rushing that game. Against Stephen F. Austin, the conference opener. It was a 48-30 win. It was all nickels at halftime. You know, they were going tit for tat in the first two quarters, but once halftime came, the offensive playbook opened up, the defense played lights out, and Stephen F. Austin couldn't move the ball an inch. It was a great defensive game, limited Stephen F. Austin to only 26 rushing yards, and that's a professional. Texas State, Colonels had to take a loss. This is their fourth straight road game. They lost 24-3. Little to no offense was really in that game. We only finished with 3 points. We got some good drives down the field, but the offensive playbook seemed kind of one-dimensional. You know, if it was a passing play, you knew 9 times out of 10 it was going to Dejon Dixon. If it was a running play, you had the workhorses in the back in Gums and Bussey, but you can't get it done just by them. The defense, they didn't really have a problem. The only problem was they stayed on the field way too long, and that's because of the offense. But besides that, you know, it's a non-conference game, but it's still a loss on the record.
That's always a problem whenever you play games and your offense can't produce it. Look at the Chicago Bears.
Exactly. Right. All right. The next game, home opener against Central Arkansas. It was 34-14, a win for the Colonels. It's always good to see one of those. The first half, it was a shutout. 4K threw for 327 yards. Now that's big. Because Chase 4K, the last couple games, he's been getting it done with his legs. He's been getting it done in the air with Dejon Dixon. But this game, he just opened it up all the way. He was getting other receivers involved. The running backs were even catching passes out the flats. It was a good game. You know, Dixon, he finished with 140 yards receiving. But he left the game injured. So then he ran into a problem. Going into the next two games, the Colonels had to find out who their top receiver was going to be now that Dixon was hurt. Against Northwestern, the Colonels won 45-35. But it was an ugly win. Todd Smith led the team in receiving yards. He stepped up really good with 70. And then 4K, he made up for the non-passing with his legs. He rushed for 135 yards. Secondary, they were a little lenient. That's the only thing I can really say. They were lenient. They allowed too many yards in the air. They gave up 387 passing yards.
Now, I do want to say, even though they allowed 387, about 77 of those kind of like garbage time yards because they scored the last D, but
it's all good. But in saying that, you got to go back to the third quarter, early fourth quarter.
You're right.
You got freshmen back in the secondary, you know, not playing man coverage, but not playing man, not pressing the guy with wide open, you know,
right.
lanes.
Can't let free releases like that.
Exactly. Sam Houston, it was a rough trip to Huntsville. I'm not even about to sugarcoat it. 4K, he passed for 212 yards, but they scored no points. The kicking game wasn't there. The defense, like I said back in the other game, they were on the field for too long, and you can't expect the defense to play all 4 quarters without any rest. And the running game wasn't even gone for the Colonels. They only had 25 rushing yards for Julian Gums.
Well, like you said, the Sam Houston game, the one thing that stands out to me, that is a game where you was definitely going to see who your other receivers were. Mm-hmm. Because, like I said, again, Dejon didn't play because of shoulder injury. And they locked in on the running game. They made sure that the Colonels was going to have to beat them through the air, and they were going to make the other receivers make plays. And it didn't happen that game.
It was definitely a game where we had to search. We had to search to see who, like Leroy said, who the next receiver was going to be. And ever since that Central Arkansas game, after that deep ball down the field to Dejon Dixon, mm-hmm. It's been a wild ride, and we've been substituting in many different receivers. Even the tight ends has been getting reps after that game.
So who have you seen stand out?
Standing out after the Central Arkansas game, wide receiver depth has been a major factor. So it is a good thing that we can choose many different receivers to get the ball to. But some of those guys that have been standing out are just trying to get substituted into the system better. Just appear on the field has been Todd Schmidt, KJ Franklin, Stefano Garisco. He's been getting in. Deion Reed, he has been battling with injuries throughout the season. But he showed up in the PV game. He got hurt that game. And then he returned last game against Sam Houston. And he actually finished that game with 3 receptions and 60 yards before he went out of that game with another injury. Yeah. But honestly, the big factor with this team is who can step up and be that next Dejon Dixon while he has been out. And guys, well, what did you want to say?
I was asking, you say who's going to step up and be the next Dejon Dixon? Why do you have to be Dejon Dixon? Why you can't be yourself?
You just need somebody. We just need somebody you can rely on.
Need a receiver. That's what I'm asking.
Get a release.
Right.
Not contradicting what you were
saying. Give
some
production.
But I'm just asking, who's going to contribute? Who do you feel like is going to contribute the most?
Right. Well, not saying exactly who would be Dejon Dixon, but who could fulfill that role that Dejon Dixon filled on the team. He's definitely a guy who can go out on the 9 route and get the ball over the top. Anytime they need it. Like in the first down, if we get sacked during the drive and we 3rd and 15.
Right.
Most teams can't predict that we're going to go to Dejon Dixon, but majority of the time he will come out successful.
Right.
But throughout the season, we have been looking towards David Robinson. He's one of those guys, they put him as the outside receiver. They try to go over the top with him, but he's just not showing that aggressiveness that Dejon Dixon has. And then another guy that we looked to was Morel Bartholomew. They substituted him in a couple of times, but he couldn't pull it out like Dejon Dixon either. But they don't have to be him; they can be themselves.
Right.
But so we actually been going around. We put in Jordan Talley. He's been getting more reps. He actually got a couple of instances where he was able to score a touchdown. And Burkeithan Mouton, he came in the game against Sam Houston, and he came out with 2 catches that game, and he completed both. It was only 2 receptions, so he had 2 catches with 2
Were
receptions.
those Mouton's first 2 receptions of the season?
Yes.
And that was and I'm saying, you saying that he got the first 2 receptions in that game, that was a shutout. So when it became time, when the going got tough, the offensive coordinator, he started pulling out plays and packages and stuff that wasn't getting used in the other games when it was a little more manageable. When it got crunch time, they came through with some different stuff that you really haven't seen before.
Yeah, and like you mentioned with Robinson and Bartholomew, those are guys who kind of have that similar body build to what Dejon has, the tall receiver who can get up and go get it. But like you said, they're not playing with that aggressiveness. And you need, it just feels like these guys are being put in a role that they weren't ready for yet, as far as trying to step up and be a receiver. And you need somebody who's gonna show out and at least be a number 2. So like you said, Dejon's it's his junior year right now. So you need to find that guy who going into next year when you're gonna have a new quarterback, that's gonna be new in itself. You gotta have a new quarterback who and just about all these quarterbacks don't really have college football experience as far as being on the field. You're gonna need those receivers to be able to make things easier for your quarterback next year. And not just that, but this year. You need guys who are going to step up and make this offense more explosive, more open up. Because right now, like you said, his offense is too predictable. It's either running the ball or going to Dejon Dixon. And you can't have that.
Exactly.
You can't win. You can't consistently win games like that.
And just look at Dejon's position, because he's been a number 2 receiver for a long time with Damian Jean-Pierre.
Right.
Because he's like one of the best receivers this program's ever had. So imagine the shoes he had to fill. Now people are trying to fill his shoes after he's filled JP's shoes. So to me, it's going to be tough to find that guy that can get open on a consistent basis. But we just got to be honest. It's a glaring issue right now if you don't have a receiver for Chase, because Chase can't do it all by himself. Right. I mean, let's just be honest. He's the reigning Southland Conference Player of the Year, but let's be honest. He needs some help in the receiving game.
Exactly. He needs help in the receiving game, and he's trying to make up for it by using his legs. He's been really running the ball non-hesitantly. He sees nobody's open. The backs are stuck blocking. What is he doing? He's putting his head down, lowering his shoulder, and just trying to get things going on the offense. But like you said, it's a team effort. He can't do it all by himself.
He's risking himself getting hurt that way too.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, we all collectively talked about this, but the Northwestern game, they were kind of able to escape without that because Chase was able to do so much with his legs. And let's be honest, Northwestern had the worst run defense in the conference. It was easy for them to just.
They also didn't win a game.
Right.
Let's just be honest.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know how long we could continue to consider this a rivalry if every time we play them, just knocking them out the water. I mean,
Exactly.
you know.
One thing's for sure, though, this pass defense is another glaring issue.
Woo, my God. Pass defense. Only 11 sacks on the year. That's second to last in conference. Only behind UIW, which I think they might be tied for. Only have one more sack. And the key thing is, when I brought the sacks, Evan Veron, the All-American, hasn't played at all this year because due to injury. He has 7 sacks alone last year out of the Colonel's 40. Mm-hmm. That's almost that's almost a fourth of your sacks.
Right.
So you take that production out, you put that 7 in this year. Mm-hmm. That's almost all of the sacks they would have this year. Right. So as much as we talk about the pass defense in this, they do need to cover better. There's no doubt about that. They do need to cover better, but they also need somebody to step on that D line and get a pass rush. And like I said, those guys probably are in positions that they probably weren't ready for coming into this year. A lot of young guys on that line.
Yeah, like you talk about a young guy on the line. You got Glenn Thurman. He got he got defensive freshman of the year, I think, last year because when he was coming in, he was making a difference. Now, granted, he's an interior defensive lineman. Right. Unless you're running power, running up the gut, he's really not going to get a hand on the back. But he's in there to apply pressure. He's in there to take your best lineman, one of your interiors, your guards, and your centers, and put pressure on him all game and let the quarterback know it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy in and out operation. Now, once you go back to your linebackers, then you have people like Pittman. Then you have people like Shannon, who's number 11?
Quinn
Steib. Yeah, you have people like a Quinn Steib. You have ballers like that who are there to really jump on people once you get to that second level. Mm-hmm. But when you get back to that secondary, I'm going to let y'all talk about that because y'all don't want to know what I know.
Only 5 interceptions on the year? Only? What, 7 games?
Yeah.
Come on now. We got to do better than that.
It's been real tough, but one of those things that's definitely affecting the secondary is that we have a lot of new guys.
Right. A lot of turnover. No pun intended, because we're not making many turnovers.
But like I said, just looking at it, I think it all predicates on that pass rush. Like you said, you mentioned Glenn, and we got Glenn and Sully on the inside. Mm-hmm. That's good for the inside, but on the edge, who do we really have that's getting at the quarterback on the edges? And that's what's missing in this team.
But that's when I say you got to rely on someone like Alan Pittman. Mm-hmm. Like, he's really being forced to step up in that role that's really voided with Evan Veron not being there. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it's unfortunate that Veron's not there, but let's just be honest, like, on a defense especially, it's not one man. Like, really any team, it shouldn't be one man. Just be like, we got that one guy and he'll be able to carry us. Like, that shouldn't be how it is. It should be like, yeah, you have a great player who has all this recognition. Right. Like, same thing on offense, Chase Forkade. He's going to need help if he's got receivers going down or he's got offensive line turnover and all that,
But that's the thing about the defense. They have pure hound dogs in every position. They have, like you said, Sully Lesh. They have Pittman. I mean, come on.
But like when you talk about Pitt getting sacks, that means you blitzing. That means you leaving guys 1-on-1. Right. Mm-hmm. So do you trust in the secondary enough to leave them 1-on-1 or the players zone blitz scheme?
I don't know. It's really a question. But what's not a question is Nichols playing at Manning Field. Clear home field advantage, and I will tell you why. So they know and they live by the phrase home field advantage. Let's just look at the past 2.5 seasons, roughly, because in 2016, they were kind of still turning the program around. 2017, they made the playoffs. 2018, they won a playoff game in the conference. So let's just see what they got here. These numbers will tell you the whole entire story for home field advantage. Since the 2017 season, Nichols has posted a 13-1 home record. In those 14 games, including the playoffs, they only have one loss. They lost 38-31 on that goal line fumble in that playoff game in 2017. Mm-hmm. Their average points per game, 37.3. Really impressive. That's averaging about 5 touchdowns a game. And 18 games on the road, it's a different story. They're only 8-10. They only average 23.5 points a game. So that shows you at Manning Field, they got about a 2-touchdown advantage just from being at home. They live on the crowd noise and the music playing, even just a little. Let's just be honest, Manning Field's not that big. It's only about 10,000 people go to the games. But home field advantage, if you're only losing one game out of 14 and you're 8-10 on the road since 2017, I mean, we still got to find out if they're going to win this weekend. But to me, the momentum at home is such a big deal at Manning Field, especially with Coach Rebo at the helm. Because let's just be honest, before Coach Rebo came, they didn't have any field advantage because they were a losing program for a long time.
Right.
But since Rebo's come around, and especially since 2017, and getting into the playoffs and getting all these guys to buy in, the home field advantage, like, let's just be honest, it's Halloween, it's spooky. Like, it's spooky for the other teams. Like, it can scare them away with a 13-1 home record. So that's my piece.
Exactly. I mean, you're right, Dan. You talk about being 13-1 at home. Home field, I mean, you're comfortable. You don't have to worry about all the traveling. You don't have to worry about the headaches of making sure that you have all your equipment before you leave. You can walk in the locker room and walk out. It's basically a glorified practice, but it's live. You better make sure that you're on the field and you're live, because when you have people in other jerseys on the other side of you, your main objective is to, hey, I'm not going to let you beat me today. Whether that's on the offensive line, whether that's at quarterback, you got to let them know. You're not going to get past me. I'm going to do whatever I want to you, to your team, to your fan base. You just got to make things happen.
Not only that, you have your fans there cheering you on. You have your band there playing your songs, cheering you on, doing everything they need to do. Making it a real home field event, like you said. That 12 man, that's what we got. That real 12 man,
that Cajun 12 man.
Yeah, that Cajun 12 man, probably the best 12 man in the Southland Conference.
They say Harvey on the Bayou, whatever, like that little nickname. Why not, like, 12th man on the Bayou, or closest to the coast. If you're at Guidry Stadium, it's not going to be easy for the opponent.
Exactly.
That's my main point.
Right.
I don't think anybody can deny that.
Just thinking about how this week will be Nichols' homecoming. When they match up against Abilene Christian at home.
A team that they lost to against last year. So they're coming in here with revenge on their mind.
Right.
But keep in mind, though, this team is coming off an overtime win last week against Stephen F. Austin. They won 31-24. And just looking at Abilene Christian, one player that they really have to account for Nichols is Tracy James. Right. Because this guy has nearly 700 yards and 12 rushing touchdowns, and we're only about halfway through the season. He's also a receiving threat with about 200 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns in the air. So you're going to have to force this team to use the quarterback to win the game and Luke Anthony. You cannot have Tracy James be the reason why we lose this game.
And our run defense is solid. So we should kind of bottle them up and keep them on there. But like you said, you're going to have to rely on the quarterback to win the game. Yes. And our secondary is the only glaring issue on our defense.
Yeah, and with that being said, like you said, Tracy James, he's grown through the years, and like we've kind of seen him grow 3 years from him and Luke Anthony. They both kind of came up in that system together, both kind of playing as freshmen. And like you said, both of the players have grown, and like Nichols' defense always stout against the run. That's never doubtable. But like I said, that pass defense it reminds you of 2016 when it looked like we couldn't cover nobody. So. That's gonna be the difference. The big difference? Can they make plays? You're gonna give up yards on the passing game. That's just something that's kind of gonna happen.
Like football's more of a passing game than
right. Can you get off the field on third down? Can you force turnovers? That's gonna be what this defense is gonna have to rely on.
But then again, you can also put some blame on the offense. Can the offense sustain drives long enough to win the time of possession?
Yes,
because that can easily tire out your defense. Because if you go 3 and out, or even let's just say 6 and out. That's not a lot of time.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. I think the problem at Texas State and even at Sam Houston was the offense was on the field in such a short amount of time, where the defense, they had time to get a Powerade and then had to run back on the field. So, I mean, you don't even have time to make substitutions. You don't have time for coaching to get done. It has to be done almost like a NASCAR pit stop.
Yeah.
Once they get in there, you got to make the adjustments as soon as you can, because you never know when you're going to be back on the field.
Yeah, it's never fun when you on the sideline defense coach trying to go through stuff and all you hear is punt alert. And within the first 3 plays of a drive.
Right. Looking back towards the Sam Houston game, like how you glorified the defense, that is correct, because Sam Houston, they got in the red zone at least 2 or 3 times, and Nichols stopped them from getting a field goal. Exactly. The defense, Nichols' defense. We just was waiting for the offense to establish that drive, and that has been the problem. Like how we talked about that wide receiver depth,
right?
But special teams has definitely been just those field goals. That's been a major problem over the season, and if we can come together just to please the fans, homecoming during this Abilene Christian game, then
get them in the uprights. That's why they're there.
So who do you think they're going to rely on? Because I know, before the show you were talking about, the difference in kickers. We were trying Gunnar Jones, and now we're transitioning to the guy that we bought on last week. Who do you think they're going to rely on this week?
Looking back at the Sam Houston game, the new freshman guy that they brought in last week, he actually missed a 33-yard field goal, so I think they might transfer back to Gunnar Jones and see what he can do this game after him not being able to travel to that last game. So that's definitely a lot to think about when you're on the field trying to make that field goal.
Right.
Oh, well, one thing's for sure. We're glad that they are back at home. So the numbers say they have a better chance of winning, that it should average around 37.5 points a game, just about. So let's just say our scores for this game. I hope we all think Nichols can win because I've got Nichols winning this game. I've got him winning 42-27. I think that the offense, even though they struggled without that wide receiver position and Dejan still being out for an unspecified amount of time, I think the offense with the crowd noise and everything on their side, like a glorified practice game, I like that. I think that they use that to their advantage and they go 14-1 at home. And honestly, Nichols, they will have to win out in order to have a chance of getting a good playoff spot or repeating the Southland Conference champs.
I feel like my score prediction for this game, I definitely based it off of our defense, so the secondary, and then just thinking about how Abilene Christian, they do have like a good quarterback and they have a good passing game. And then last season, when I watched that game at Abilene Christian's home, that was definitely a problem that we had. It was over the top, and this season that has been a problem. So I feel like Abilene could score in between 20 and 28 points. And our offense, majority of the time at home, they will show out. They definitely produce when we're at home. So I feel like Nichols will beat Abilene Christian 28-20.
Well, we talked about the secondary a lot, and we talked about how they were giving up, 9 routes and different things like that. But a thing that I also noticed is that we had a lot of pass breakups. Like Kevin Johnson, he had a pass breakup against Northwestern in the end zone. KJ Franklin, he had a lot of pass breakups against Sam Houston. So, I think they're going to get a couple of those. I have Nichols winning 35-21. I think the offense, they're going to, they've been in the system. They got punched in the mouth last game. You can't glorify it. You can't say it any other way. They got beat 17-0. So they have to come out and they have to make up for the points that they didn't score last week. So I think they're going to win 35-21 against Abilene.
I'm going to say y'all have a lot of confidence in his offense.
It's at home. It's at home.
Okay, I have some confidence in him, but I do feel that it's still going to have some effects from Dejan being out, and they might struggle a little bit, but I figure they're still going to win, and I figure it's going to be a close game. But the defense, they're going to make plays, and they're going to be able to get out the field. I feel like they win 27-24.
27-24. You think it's going to be that close of a game?
I mean, I think it'll be a little close.
Homecoming thriller.
So you're relying on the new kicker. That's what I'm hearing. All right.
Hey, special teams got to make some plays, man. We got to have some kind of help from somewhere.
Hey, man, I had a coach in high school, Dan Irwin. He said these are the keys to win your game. Offense handling business, defense handling business, special teams. As long as that's happening, bring home.
That is the formula to success. You're right. So, this game, 3 o'clock on Cox Sports Television, ESPN+, ESPN 100.3 FM, New Orleans. Make sure you get out there. I know it might be a little rain forecast, maybe a little bit cool and rainy.
Rain's a clip for the game.
Yeah. Oh, man. But I hope the only thing that's raining is Nichols fans just cheering. We're going to be cheering for this team and hoping that they do put up the 42 points like I predict. If not, at least get the victory.
For the Colonel Football Preview, I'm Brandon Thomas.
I'm Daniel Benitez.
Leroy Triggs.
And I am Shannon Royal.
Make sure you get out to the game. Go Colonels.
Go Colonels.
Colonels.
All right.